you go.
I think you were still alive during the countdown, so whatever you said, I couldn't hear it, but...
I was saying all sorts of shit, Joe, man. I was saying all sorts of shit, man.
Hello. We're back.
Hello, world. How are you?
Hopefully
all
with all that matters to us is that you're well.
There you go.
Hopefully not too much audio interference this week. We are down another person. Aurel is in a class somewhere. Not sure what type of class.
It's in a class. It's in a class of his own.
He's in a class of his own. Yeah.
He's in a class of his own, and he is studying English literature at A level, and so therefore, because of that, he can't be with us tonight. So anyway,
that's right. Okay.
Let's offer up a big prayer to our brothers, Chrissy Darling and Aurel Mirez, who can't be with us tonight, unfortunately.
No, Aurel will be back next week, I think, and as soon as this vaccine's out and widespread, then Chrissy hopefully will be back with us as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's hope for that, eh? Let's hope our brother can get back with us, because obviously, well, not obviously, but without the public knowing, there's certain health issues with our brother Chrissy. He couldn't be with us for the period of the lockdown because of the health issues. But let's hope when we get this vaccine and it rocks.
I know. And talking of the vaccine, we will be touching on that today. We're also talking about COVID numbers, snow. It's coming.
Snow's coming.
Not the stuff that goes up your nose, but the stuff that falls on your head. Elliot Page.
No one on this channel, Joe, would ever talk about anything that goes up their nose, other than air and I don't know, snot. So, let's quickly say hello to MJ, our beautiful Melanie Jane Duffin, and also Paul Maximus Crit. Hi, Paul. How are you doing, brother? Glad to see you again this week. I hope that you're well. I hope your family's well, and all the rest of it. But without further ado, let's move on.
We're also talking about, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, Elliot Page and Netflix, aliens because of the monoliths that have been popping up and disappearing all around the globe, the Arcadia collapse and the Sports Direct injection refusal, and also nuclear batteries.
There you go. So there you go. What are you doing tonight, folks? David, we've got lots to talk about. And don't forget, of course, folks, we've got the Armchair Anarchists phone, and the number is on the screen. You can see it. You can give us a ring anytime you want, and let us know what you think too. Let us know what your thoughts are. Our point here is to offer up a debate at which we'd like you to join us. So please feel free to join us in the debate.
Yeah, so let us know your thoughts.
First thing, Joe, we can't move on without talking about the first thing that's on everyone's mind, and it's the vaccine. Is it not? It's the vaccine, brother. It's the vaccine. Where do we stand with the vaccine, brother? Where do we stand with the vaccine? Well, I'll tell you where we stand with the vaccine. Go on, what are your thoughts, Joe?
No. Well, the UK has just approved the Pfizer vaccine, which I thought was interesting because the Oxford University, what's it called? Not Arcadia, the Oxford. What's the company that's working with Oxford? I can't think of it now.
With Oxford, it's
AstraZeneca. That was it.
Yeah,
AstraZeneca. I thought they might go with that because it's being done in this country. It's British, and it's by far the cheapest option. And also, you don't need deep freeze cold storage. With Pfizer's vaccine, you need at least minus 70 degrees deep freeze storage to manage this vaccine, and also it costs. It costs like 10 times as much as AstraZeneca's and Oxford's vaccine as well. Now, AstraZeneca and Oxford, their vaccine can be kept in a fridge, in fridge temperatures, which is like -5 or -7 or something like that, and doesn't need as much maintenance as Pfizer would need. It just doesn't make much sense to me.
It doesn't make much sense to anyone, really, I suppose, unless you take in numbers into account.
Yeah.
The Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine was proven to be more effective, and please, anyone that's watching, please, if I'm wrong,
not initially, because remember, as we talked about it last week,
Two vaccines.
last week. The Pfizer vaccine is 95% effective off the bat, whereas the Oxford AstraZeneca one was 60% initially when they were giving one dose. And then when they added another half dose, that's when it brought it up to 90%. So that's maybe why the UK government went with Pfizer, because it's 5% more effective.
Possibly. But let's just say, hypothetically speaking,
Yeah.
that you were, I don't know, conspiratorially minded. Let's just say you were that way inclined. I.e., you don't. I would say that this is bullshit. That's what I would say. But at that point, it doesn't really matter.
Well, you've got to look at
this point.
Who's being paid more? Pfizer.
Well, who's been paid more? American big pharma, basically. Being paid
exactly.
More. So there you go. The only surprise to me is that it isn't Johnson & Johnson. That's the only surprise to me.
Yeah,
really,
they
really
seem to have fallen off a cliff when it comes to a vaccine at the moment.
And I think that the reason for that being is because they didn't provide the vaccine 2 weeks before the election results came in. Do you know what I mean? That's the only reason I would say that isn't.
Poor old Trump.
Poor old Trump. Oh my God, my heart bleeds. I have lay awake thinking about him, Joel. Have you?
I've not been able to get any sleep since election night.
Oh, me neither, brother.
Just thinking about him crying into his fucking bowl of cornflakes.
His bowl of Mac fries, you know?
Yeah. Crying into his Christmas double Big Mac.
There you go, exactly.
Which I can't believe as well. I mean, a double Big Mac. This year's McDonald's Christmas season special is a double Big Mac. As if a Big Mac wasn't heart attack inducing enough.
McDonald's only base their decisions upon what they see as their customer influence. So they're seeing, this is McDonald's thinking right now, so bear with me. I'm going to step into character. Bear with me. McDonald's chief exec. Here we go. All right, folks, here we go. They're coming out of lockdown. They're coming out of, listen, what they want, what do they want? They want to be able to go to a fucking McDonald's and order twice as much as they did before. So get me a fucking double Big Mac now. And I don't want to know if or what's about it, or you're sacked.
Well, you know, Trump was first in line for that double Big Mac.
Oh, there you go. They're playing to their audience, brother. What do you want to know?
But
what do you want to know?
I think,
I'll tell you what I will tell you, though.
Yeah.
Is that in lines with the vaccine, brother, it's interesting to know that today, Russia, Putin, right, has ordered Russia to begin mass vaccinations, right? So on that basis, let me go through a few details with our audience and yourself. President Putin has ordered Russian authorities to begin mass voluntary, keep that word in mind, my boys and girls, voluntary vaccinations against COVID-19 next week. As Russia recorded 589 new daily deaths from the coronavirus, which was today. And I looked into these statistics. If 589 people died today, and if we take that as like an average for the week, in Russia, which is 150 million people, give or take a few million, 157, but let's round it off to the nearest number, which is 150 million. It comes to 0.001% of the public are now being given access to a voluntary vaccine that is suggested by Putin, right? So the 589 deaths today in Russia. Russia will have produced 2 million vaccine doses in the next few days. Putin said, Russia said last month that it's Sputnik 5 jab. I ask you, is there some sort of correlation? Maybe you out there who are watching can look at what Sputnik 5 has in connection with this. We know what Sputnik 1 was. That was Sputnik. what was Sputnik 5? Is that the second female launch? Anyway, any you conspiracists out there? Yeah, exactly. Move on. It was 92% effective at protecting people from COVID-19, according to interim results. Let's agree on this. You will not report to me next week, but you will mass vaccination. Let's go to work already. Putin told Deputy Prime Minister Tatiana Galikatova.
You should be good at Russian names.
Thank you. I'm good at Russian, as you know. Galikatova said that large-scale vaccination could begin on a voluntary basis in December. The rise in infections has slowed since reaching a high on the 27th of November, with 25,345 new cases reported last Wednesday. Russia has resisted imposing lockdowns during the second wave of the virus, preferring regional curbs. Now, keep that in mind. What are your thoughts, Joel, on this? I'll tell you mine in a minute. What are yours?
Well, hold on. I was just listening to the sound back of the feed, and it sounds all right. But yeah, no. So I'm going to show on screen the numbers that you sent me earlier, which is a country by country breakdown, and I think these are the latest numbers. And Russia comes in 5th there, with total cases totaling 2.3 million. The US, obviously, with 13.7 million because of Trump's total balls up of the situation. The UK actually comes down in, let's have a look here, 9th with 1.6 million cases. And it looks like, if you look at the number of cases per week and the total deaths, Russia are I think we're doing slightly worse than Russia by the looks of it. Now, if you look at the size of countries, obviously the US being the biggest, Russia, in terms of landmass, they are smaller or bigger than the US? I'm not sure.
I think that in terms of the former USSR was larger. I'm not too sure about Russia. I know it's got 150 million in population, but in terms of landmass, I'm not too sure. Maybe anyone out there can let us know on the Armchair Anarchists. If you give us a message back, we'll let you know.
But what's going to be interesting is that the UK government are going to roll out a massive ad campaign to try and get people to take the vaccine. Because there was a question raised in the House of Commons during PMQs this week, something along the lines of how are you going to get people to take the vaccine with all the anti-vaxxers out there and all the conspiracy theories, and he said we are not we are not a government to force anything upon anybody, or something to that effect. I'm not quoting him there, but they said that they're going to roll out a massive ad campaign to try and combat the anti-vaxxers and try and get people on board with the vaccine and try and get everybody, because let's not forget, if the majority of people don't take it, then it's not going to have a massive effect on COVID, and it's still going to be out there.
Well, it's not got any effect on COVID. It's not got any effect on COVID. That's the thing. Two key things to take from this statement is number one, the vaccine itself. Do you trust the vaccine? I have got. Sorry, let me have a quick look, because I looked before at questions that are raised about the vaccine, right? And the vaccine, and have a quick look. The vaccine itself raises a couple of questions. Number one, is it safe?
Yeah.
Number two, why is it been rolled out so quickly as opposed to other vaccines?
Well, now scientists, I've watched quite a number of news interviews, and scientists have said that it has been a quick turnaround purely because of the global crisis. And they also said that the trials and the phases through all the companies that have been involved have been the most stringent trials that have ever taken place. They've altered the measures, they've refined the process. That's why it's been able to take place more quickly. But like I said before, many times, I always trust scientists. I always trust science. So, yes, in the past, vaccines have taken 10 years or more to come about, but because it's like when a war happens, take a world war, for instance, it drives people to do things quickly. Some of the most biggest technological advances have happened during wartime scenarios or during catastrophes or something like that. It pushes people to work faster and harder and think through problems.
When I read into it, it gave me a level of comfort, and as it should do anyone else watching.
Yeah.
Because obviously we all have the same questions. Does this vaccine work? Is it being rushed? And any anti-vaccine people out there who tend to veer on the side of conspiracy, I personally don't, but the people that do are asking questions, valid questions, by the way. I'm not knocking you, by the way. Valid questions such as, does this vaccine work? It's been rushed out. Why should we have faith in this vaccine? Well, when I read into it, the reason that it's been rushed out so quickly is because, and it's a point to note for future reference, by the way, is that certain thresholds have been, certain restrictions have been put by the side. Not scientific restrictions where you bypass a certain code of conduct or anything like that. Because when the first stage of people that went in for the first trials were being conducted, they were also issuing the second tier at the same time. So the two tiers were being conducted at the same time. And what happened was they were getting results from the first tier, and what would normally happen is they would take the results from the first tier, acknowledge them, publish them in their peer groups, such as scientific researchers, and then it'd move on to the next tier, which is the second tier. Well, the bypass and what they've done is they've done them at the same time. So you have 60,000 people and 100,000 people all going through the same clinical trial at the same time, and the results are being published like this, as opposed to waiting for this tier to finish. Then we'll, and because of that, they've bypassed a lot of regulation. So, in my opinion, this is a safe vaccine. It's a safe vaccine.
It's not a case of necessarily bypassing, which may infer cutting corners and go and
absolutely.
Go around anybody's back. It's a case of refining the process, and like you say, they've been pushing out information very quickly as they get it, instead of waiting for all the information and then collating it and then pushing it out. So it's just a refined and sped up process.
It's refined. What they've not done is waited for tier 1 to give their results of the vaccine, and then they'll move on to tier 2. They've been running tier 1 and tier 2 slightly behind each other, only by like a microcosm, like 2 seconds behind, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
They've been running the 2 tiers back to back, but behind each other. So any kind of adverse results or adverse kind of side effects would appear on tier 1, and then tier 2 can take into account. Normally that would take over 10 years because of all sorts of different processes they have to go through. But they've cut all that red tape in between, and what they've done is they took results of tier 1, immediately combined them with tier 2, which is immediately combined with tier 3, and we're now seeing the results of like tier 3 results, which is saying this is 95% safe, boys and girls. I personally trust these results because I've followed the money, Joe. I've followed the money, and I've followed back where this can lead to if there's any potential insurance claims coming from the public, or independent kind of claims could come, and any kind of corporation like Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson or AstraZeneca, whatever they're called, I can't remember.
GlaxoSmithKline or AstraZeneca. Yeah, but that's an interesting point.
They all have to rely upon one thing: can they be sued? Can you be sued?
Mm.
If I get an adverse reaction to this, Lee Forsyth Griffiths, if I get an adverse reaction to this vaccine, can I sue the person that gave it to me? Now, it's a very complex kind of context you have to go through. But I followed the money back from all of these people that have gained acquisition to these vaccines, and taking out a political context, forget Trump or anyone else, no, these have gone through very stringent clinical trials. But the corners, if you like, in inverted commas, that have been cut are not scientific; they are politic. That have been cut. They've cut red tape, if you like, in order to get these vaccines to market as quickly as possible.
But that's an interesting point you bring up. It's an interesting point you bring up because I think this is going to be quite rare. But if anybody did have a side effect, they could sue the company or the government, for that matter.
Exactly. No, the causes of complaint. I've looked into this deeply because I'm a weirdo. Because I've been lost on this Theranos thing. Anyone out there that knows what that means will understand. I've been lost on this tangent of Theranos, which is, let me give you the background. Theranos was a startup company in Silicon Valley that was created by a woman called Elizabeth Holmes, who created this tech startup that said that from 2 drops of blood from a finger prick, we'll be able to give you over 100 tests instantaneously within 10 minutes, And this woman ended up running a company that, through tech backing, because there was no scientific data, it was worth $9.5 billion, And then ultimately ended up being found out to be completely and utterly fake, because she had no system that could take 200 clinical trials from 2 drops of blood. I've been following this for over a year, obsessed with it. So place that into context, what we talk about here in terms of vaccines. The companies that are issuing these vaccines are, Pfizer. Well, that's backed by Trump. We'll go into that later. That's a side issue. But the companies that were also in these trials were Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, GlaxoSmithKline, and 4 other contenders. The key thing to keep in mind here, folks, is if you take this vaccine and you have an adverse reaction to it, then you have got the potential to make a claim against an insurance company because you have now had your health adversely reacted to this vaccine that they've given you. Now, keep that in mind. Always follow the money. If anyone in one of these companies thought that 1 billion, or let's say 2% of 1 billion people reacted adversely to that vaccine, that means they're going to lose a lot of money if this vaccine doesn't work. Follow the money. So on that basis alone, it means that these companies have done due diligence on a grand scale. They know that this vaccine is fucking pretty much on point. Maybe 1 or 2 people might have an adverse reaction to it. But then again, 1 or 2 people might have an adverse reaction to fucking sugar or salt or fucking anything, paracetamol.
Nuts.
Nuts, there you go. Well, there's a lot more people that have an adverse reaction to nuts.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is they've done the due diligence.
Yeah.
And if you follow the money, it makes sense. It makes absolute sense.
Okay.
This vaccine works because if it didn't work, then anyone taking it has got the right to make a claim against the people that have produced it. And that means there's potential lawsuits involved. Any company who presents a vaccine to the market en masse have either got huge resources or 2, it works. And any time it doesn't work, they can potentially cover that in terms of financials.
Well, this is going to be rolled out in the next few weeks. In this
you go.
country, the Pfizer vaccine has been signed off by the UK government. It's going to be rolled out in the next few weeks. The first people to get it will be the healthcare workers and the elderly in care homes, the most at risk. And then it'll be rolled out to the rest of the country and the population throughout the course of next year, starting in spring.
An important note to make, Joel. Forgive me for interrupting you, brother. I apologise. Yep. But important note to make is that when you look at the way the vaccine is being rolled out in this country, it's being rolled out firstly to the people that potentially need it the most. Now, you can see this in two ways. You can see this as, well, obviously it needs to be. But then on the other hand, you can see it as, well, why? Why? And the answer, in my opinion, and my opinion only, by the way, is that this has been proven scientifically to be most effective to the people who need it the most, i.e. the people, because it's a respiratory disease that affects the lungs and all of the effects involved. It obviously is most effective to that particular geographic, right?
Demographic,
Demographic. So it would say to me, listen, if you need to take this vaccine, take it, please.
And also,
please do not become part of this growing number of people that are anti-vax or anti-fucking lockdown. This, or if you're part of that crew, then please do me a favour, fuck off. You're an absolute twat, and I mean that in my opinion, not Joel. In my opinion.
And also, another reason or possible reason for the vaccine just to go to healthcare workers and the elderly first, not just because they're the most vulnerable, but of course they'll roll it out to everybody if they had enough. There's only been a certain amount of vaccine been able to produce. They can only produce it so fast, and that's why these people get it first, and then everybody else gets it later, because there's only so much to go around.
Well, I'll tell you what, on that point, it's an interesting point, the speed of rollout. So here we go. Let's take Russia, for example, which we were speaking about earlier, right? Russia. Putin this week ordered Russia to begin mass vaccinations, right? And let's not forget, folks, by the way, he's buying this vaccine from Pfizer, which is an American company. But he has ordered that mass COVID vaccination should begin this week because Russia has shown this week to have, let me refer to my notes here, by the way. 589 new deaths from COVID. That's in a 150 million population. So that's by day, right? But that means approximately 0.00111% in a month has died. It's a lot of people, but it's not a lot of people if you take the. But that's by the by. The city of St. Petersburg itself, which is 5 million in population, has shown 3,684 new infections this week. Now, that shows that it's on the rise in Russia, and they're taking an American vaccine and they're going to mass populate their people. In terms of mass vaccination, Germany has taken a stance where I asked your opinions, folks. What your opinion? What's your opinion? Your opinion, people out there, please let me know. Germany, who has always been known forget World War II, for a second, but post World War II has been shown to be a very, very, very reserved nation in terms of making drastic steps. They don't do that. They don't do that. They very astutely assess what's going on. They take their time. They've got a very strong economy because of the way it's run, and that's the mindset of a German national. They've taken the stance where they're not going to roll out national vaccination. They're going to wait 2 weeks before they make a comment nationally, governmentally, with regards to the vaccine. They're going to wait. They're going to hold back. The UK have not. They've held the fucking. We've run ahead. We're going to. Yeah, we're going with this. We're going with it. We're going to have the vaccine. We're going to do it.
But are they waiting? Are they waiting just to see what happens with other people or other countries?
There you go. That's the question. There you go. That's the question. Are they waiting to find out? Have they got a greater insight than we have? Which I'm sure they've got a greater insight than you and I have, Joe. But are they waiting to see? It's just not we don't know it. Or
I don't know. So, the Germans are, I don't know, more cautious, I guess.
There you go. They're a more cautious nation. But anyway, just to, before I go any further, Joe, Tony Powell has said. Has said at the mental health unit that I work at. God bless you, my brother. We love you. God bless you for your work. We were all asked if we would accept a vaccine if it were offered. Out of 12 staff members, only one member of staff said they would accept the vaccine. Tony, get back to me, brother. Get back to me that one, because I'm gobsmacked at that. I know that, so I'm taking into account you work at a mental health unit. That doesn't matter, really. It matters in context of who you are and what you do. God bless you, my brother. But in context of the question we're asking here, I don't think that matters. So take that out of account for the minute. One member of staff only was going to accept the vaccine. Wow. Folks, anyone watching, what are your thoughts?
And these are healthcare workers.
Yeah, exactly. And please, I ask because I want to know something you might not. Yeah, well, I don't know. It's the phone me, and we can talk about it there. But or if not messages, it's okay.
We will see. Said, go on.
That whenever you put something on screen, you can't hear me, but that's okay. That's probably best, in fact. That's the best bet.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I'll fix that. Okay. I'll fix that. Okay. Don't worry, I'll fix it.
Well, cheers, Mel, for mentioning that anyway. Cheers, Dave.
I'm going to fix it right now, if you just bear with me 1 second, people.
It's probably...
There we go. Now they can hear you. Good. On the screen. So, anyway, we'll see what happens in the coming weeks with who takes it, who doesn't, and how it's accepted.
Joe,
yeah?
Do you mind if I ask you a question, brother? And this is off script what we're doing here because I haven't put this up in the notes before we've done the show. But what I want to ask is, potentially, we're looking now. I want to note this on the Armchair Anarchists site, if I can, brother. Because we're potentially looking now at the beginning, as Winston Churchill said in the past. This is not the beginning of the end, but is it the end of the beginning? Or something of that nature. The point I'm making is, without joke, is today with the statement governmentally, this rollout of the vaccine, which will begin to reduce the paranoia and state of fear that we all live in and have lived in for now nearly a year. Where do we stand now? Where do we stand now where would we stand post-COVID? This is a question I want to ask to not just yourself, Joel, but to anyone that potentially is watching, right? Where do we stand post-COVID? Because this now is a situation that a lot can be gleaned from in terms of control, in terms of public reaction, in terms of the way response. In fact, that should be number one. In terms of response, governmentally. Let's say a pandemic ensues where it isn't like 0.005% of the public can potentially die. Let's say it was a pandemic that could potentially be 10% of the public can die. Let's imagine that situation, hypothetically speaking, right? The government response globally has been beyond horrific. I mean, if you take the major players in the world, such as the United States and China, European Union.
I think the majority of the Asian countries have done pretty well in terms of, or when I say majority, I'm going to list a few names here. South Korea, Taiwan, places like that have managed to keep COVID numbers down to a bare minimum.
Right, there you go. And I will look into those figures too myself, because that's those things that I lie awake at night, like looking at. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the question I want to pose to the audience is, if we were now looking back on 2020 and we were in 2030, and we're looking back on this moment, what will we infer from the response to it? So what was the response from the governments worldwide? Well, what we've seen is, one, they use them as one, it was disastrous for a start. At least, God bless the people that I'm talking about. But at least, let's say, 100,000 people worldwide.
You're looking at people, world leaders in particular, like Trump, Boris Johnson, Putin. Those three especially in particular, because some of the biggest world leaders and the kind of shit job that they've done, especially Trump, in terms of managing the crisis. A lot of other countries, like I say, have done a pretty good job. It's just that in the Western world that we live in at the moment, the big players have done a shit job, whereas the smaller players have done better jobs. And you can see from this list here that places like Taiwan and South Korea aren't even on that list because their numbers are so low.
So they thank you, brother, for those numbers, man, because the question I ask, just my personal point of view, is what any kind of horrific thing that happens, you ask yourself, what can I learn from this that I won't do again in the future? Or what have I learned from this? I won't react this way in the future, or whatever. On a global scale, with regards to COVID, what has the nation, what has the world learned from COVID? And I'm using this on the basis that potentially a vaccine's going to be rolled out that can end this period here for this moment. So looking back on 2020, what can we learn globally from this pandemic? And all I can take is what I've observed so far. And what I've observed so far is the leaders of the major nations are completely and utterly incapable and underprepared. Well, they're not underprepared, that's a lie. They were prepared if they'd followed fucking all of the criteria that were given to them beforehand in terms of a pandemic. Global leaders cannot be trusted in terms of what they tell you, and in terms of, will they react, or will they give you the right information because it's been proven? No, they don't, and no, they can't, and they will only serve themselves in terms of political value.
When it comes to people like Trump, Johnson, and Putin, yeah. When it comes to the next US President, Joe Biden, I think he's 100, if not 1,000% more transparent than the current administration. And if Biden would have been in during this crisis, I think it would have been, again, 100, if not 1,000 times better in terms of response and information given out to the public.
Wholeheartedly agree with that. The key thing about this pandemic that anyone will draw from initially is the speed of response to the information given to these leaders. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Right, so the speed of response has been motivated by one thing. It hasn't been public health. It hasn't been the people that tell them this can happen, do this now. It's been political motivation on all the people you spoke about, whether it be in our country, which is Boris Johnson, or whether it be in America, which is Donald Trump. The motivation for their response has been politically motivated, not national health motivated. It's been motivated by personal motivations.
Now, Matt,
their political career.
That's what we learned from this. Just touching on Matt Hancock, because he bless him. He's been in front of the cameras so much, especially recently.
Bless him. Did you say bless him then?
Yeah, hesitantly.
No,
Because he's been.
Take that back.
he's been in front of the cameras answering as many questions as possible, even though the UK government kind of blockaded what was it, the ITV morning show, Good Morning Britain. They wouldn't go on there for weeks, if not months. And until Good Morning Britain actually tracked Matt Hancock down at an outside press conference / news interview, and actually just at the end of that interview just went straight at him and asked him, why aren't you on our show? Can you answer a few questions? But I mean, he's been, in terms of giving out information, he's been out there, so he's been visible.
He's been out there, but
that's not to say that he's been transparent.
Right? No, he's been not remote. He's been out there. He's been out there, but again, I would refer back to. I understand what you're saying there, but I refer back to the idea of political motivation.
Yeah.
He can quite clearly see that Boris Johnson is now under attack from backbenchers. Anyone outside the UK, by the way, this basically means that the person in power is now being critically reviewed by the people that have made him, that have placed him in that position, right? So, and it's never happened before with Boris Johnson, who is leader of our country right now. He's now being critically, so with that in mind, he places someone out there in the public view. Matt Hancock, every interview I've seen by this man, any question has been posed to him that has been of any kind of nature that actually needs a response of value, has completely sidestepped it and has referred directly to the code book of political responses. He has not given any kind of information to the British public that has either made me feel safe or you feel safe. He's a complete political, he's a professional politician. He is an absolute bastard, in my opinion. My opinion only. He's an absolute wanker. He's an absolute fucking fuckwit of the highest nature, in my opinion. But he's been placed in front of the British public and is chosen to take that airtime. Not
just on.
Need to know, but because he wants the airtime, so his face is more fucking resemblance. You'll recognise his face more. It's more recognisable.
Well, not just on the news and on television, but also in front of select committees, in front of MPs. He's been in there answering questions. So he's not just been in the public eye on the news, but he's been in these select committee hearings, answering questions about the response and the vaccine. So
absolutely, but I couldn't agree with you.
Let's see what happens.
Before we see what happens, before we move on, it's an interesting point because this man himself is responsible for not just the rollout of the vaccine, he's responsible for all of the health of the United Kingdom, and has been. And on a very, 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 very basic level, I will give him respect for having. I base this on the terminology of a Tory, having the balls to stand out there and put himself in front of a camera and think, well, okay, I'm intellectually able to sidestep these questions. On that basis, I'll give him respect. On that basis alone. But has he answered any of those questions? No. Not a single solitary one. Hence the fact that we're still in the dark with regards to virtually everything. But anyway, I'll move on.
So I've got a question for you.
Please. Go on.
Question. Are you ready for Christmas?
No, because you know why. Are you? Let me ask you this question.
Well,
Are you ready for Christmas?
Well, actually, I'm pretty set. I've got presents
You and
for
Kieran.
people, and pretty set. But the weather's
Pretty
about
set.
to,
Oh no, sorry.
pretty set. The
Pretty
weather's
set.
about to take a
Sorry.
turn, though. The
I
weather's
was a
about
bit
to
of a dull there for a minute.
the weather's
But
about
anyway,
to take a turn because it's according to the Met Office, and they're not always accurate, but it's going to snow. It's going to
apparently
snow.
so, and apparently before the end of this week, my brother.
Yeah.
Apparently before the end of this week. Now I'm in the north right now. I'm in Manchester. I'm with my mum and my family, my mum, my sister, and my nephews and that. But I'm in the north. I'm in Manchester, and let me tell you something. The other day, I looked out the window early hours of the morning because I couldn't sleep, worrying about the world like I do, and there was frost over every car and everything. It was an amazing sight. But apparently this week, the weather forecasts are that we're going to go to temperatures that are going to plummet between -2.
Oh my God.
-2. Save extra long. Sorry, it's going to go between -2 in this country. In the north, it's always the north that cops it the most. And here's the thing, right?
Of
Here's the
course.
thing. I'm in the north right now, but I live in the south. I live in the south of the United Kingdom. Anyone watching abroad? I live down the south. Joel is down south right now. I'm up here in the north. So imagine those are 2 points. I'm sort of in the middle. I'm here. And Joel's down there, and that's always warmer by roughly around 1 or 2 degrees, roughly. And the north varies between 5 or 6 degrees. So anything halfway across the United Kingdom varies to the point where 5 or 6 degrees. So people in the south, where Joel is right now, can be like, it's still go outside to shop, and it's not cold, but it's
Especially in London because of its microclimate.
exactly. It's not warm. It's not
places
cold.
like the Midlands and further north are more likely to get snow. But I like the snow. I'm quite excited.
I'm in Manchester, but I'm in the north. I'm right up here in the top end, right? Well, I'm sort of middle UK, and on that basis, it's cold. It's fucking cold, but it's cold. I wear shorts all year round, as you know. But even I'm finding my hair standing on my legs on end. But they're talking about it being -2.
Mm-hmm.
This is unprecedented kind of temperatures, brother, at
Well,
this time of year.
This time of year, I don't know. I mean, if you look back historically, I'm sure we've reached these temperatures before. But I think the important point here is that if we're going to see snow this early, could we see a white Christmas?
I hope we do. But listen, I'm dreaming of fucking get rid of it, please, quick as fucking fast as you can. Fuck it, Christmas, just like the ones we used to know. I don't care. I don't care.
I love the snow. It's not so much about Christmas,
move on to 2021 as soon as possible, please, folks. Please, can we do that?
It's not so much about Christmas; it's about the snow. Anyway, if we get snow, I hope it's a lot, because if it's a little, then it's just slush and it's horrible. If we get the good heavy stuff, that's what I'm looking forward to.
It soundproofs everything. It soundproofs me. Soundproofing me. A couple of comments that we've received during the broadcast, Joe. Tony Power said, if you read what I said. Now, Tony Power was the guy that's talking about the people in mental health, where only 1 person out of 12 chose to take the vaccination. I said, if you read what I said, I apologise, Tony, if I didn't read properly what you said. Please forgive me, I apologise. I was the only member who said they will accept the vaccine. Well, God bless you, Tony. Yeah, you got the one with common sense. My feeling is that most of the 12 people will change their minds when it comes to the crunch. I wonder really what would be the reaction from people if they were told, for instance, that they could not travel if they hadn't received the vaccine. I wonder if people would be pressurized in some way to take it. Good question. What do you think, folks? What do you think, Joe? Moving on, another question from Paul Maximus Pritt was, when you want to travel abroad, the airline industry will be saying, if you haven't had the vaccine, you won't be able to travel. It's coming. I assume that Paul works in the airline industry. Mm-hmm. That's a very, very good question, and it's a good point to make. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Tony, as well. And Tony said, the odds for a white Christmas, Joel,
yes,
in London are 4-1, and in Scotland are 7-4.
Ah, there you go.
That's pretty standard average odds. Tony, I'm not a betting man. I don't bet, but I would assume that they're pretty average odds for today. But let me know if I'm wrong.
Now, have you heard? You've probably seen about the monoliths that have been occurring around the world. The first one in Utah.
Joel, before we start this conversation, can I thank you, brother? Oh my God, thank you. No, really, folks, come in, draw in. Are you drawing in? Join in, folks. Listen to me now. Listen to me and look at me. I have become slightly obsessed by Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick is a film director that directed such notable films as, well, let's work backwards. Eyes Wide Shut.
Did he do Eyes Wide Shut? Oh, right.
Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut. He did 2001, A Space Odyssey. But he also did, oh, for fuck's sake, I watched it last night. Jesus Christ.
Was it?
It doesn't really matter, because the point I'm making is, if you are a film buff of any kind, and Joel, you need to do me a favour with it. Promise me you'll do this tonight. You and Kieran hook up tonight and watch the 2001 A Space Odyssey, because he did The Shining as well.
Yeah.
Which is obviously another notable. This man was, in my opinion, and I don't use this term oddly or frivolently, he was a genius. The man was an absolute, genuine genius. Mm-hmm. He was a genius. Go back and watch A Space Odyssey, 2001 A Space Odyssey, because the monolith that appeared in Utah or whatever is obviously a bow towards Stanley Kubrick, who, if you watch Space Odyssey, it will make complete sense. All of his films are left open. Well, unlike a Spielberg film, where you get the beginning, the middle, and the end, and it's tied perfect like a bow, the end. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Well, Stanley Kubrick didn't do that. Every single solitary scene, he did Full Metal Jacket as well. Yes. Every single solitary scene in every one of his films is meticulously thought through and intelligently thought out. He was an absolute genius of a nature that you can't comprehend. When he did 2001: A Space Odyssey, he made that film in, I think it was 1970. He started production of that film. So keep that in mind. 1970, he started production. Now, if you watch it back in the year 2020, it makes greater sense now than it did then. I need you to go and watch this film. Okay. It is the work of an absolute genius, and he created the monolith. He created this idea of a external thing that is blank in perception in terms you look at it. Yeah, I'm going to show you a picture of it in a second. Yeah, good. Please do. So the first one that was found in Utah by a group of guys that were counting sheep, and that was there, and that disappeared. And then another one popped up in Romania, and I believe this is the one in Romania. Here's a shot of it there. Now this one was slightly different. It had swirling patterns on the metal itself. And this one has now disappeared, I do believe. So where, if any more are going to pop up, where are they going to pop up? If one pops up in this country, you can believe that I will be travelling to that destination. Salisbury. I'll put money on it now. It'll be Salisbury. This is an absolute, in my opinion anyway, I beg you, Joel, I beg you, Kieran, I beg you, anyone that's watching this, tonight, when you're looking for something to watch to doze off to, whether you're stoned or you're drunk or you're just tired, please go back and rework and relook at Stanley Kubrick's work. He always left his work ambivalent. Ambiguous. It was always ambiguous. It was always left open to your interpretation as to what he actually thought, right? Go back and watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, because if there's ever a greater fucking statement of the year 2020, it is the film A Space Odyssey.
Do you think that's why these things are happening, and why are they popping up? Is it somebody making that kind of statement? Is it just some kind of global art project? Is it, you know, what?
Or is it a group of people who just want to get attention to themselves, or is it whatever it is? It's tied into
whatever it is. It's cool. That's what it is.
It's very, very cool. Before Tony goes to bed, Tony, good night, God bless, brother. We love you, and thank you for tuning in again. Make sure you go to bed tonight watching 2001: A Space Odyssey. We'll discuss this next week because it's a fascinating thing to discuss in terms of the way we are right now in 2020, and also with regards someone in 1969 viewing the world. And Paul Maximus Pritt states the enlightenment of the planets is happening 21st of this month. Paul, how, what, where what does that mean? I don't know.
So hold on. I think I know what he means. The alignment of the planets. So that's when all the planets in the solar system line up with the Earth, I think, or line up in a straight line. Is that happening?
I don't know. Joel, have a look.
Wow.
I don't know, but I do know that I know this much, brother. I have thoroughly enjoyed this week's discussion, man. Because
yes,
I really have. I really have. Because
now hold on. An update there. So the alignment of the planets. So because of the orientation and the tilt of their orbits, the 8 major planets of the solar system can never come into perfect alignment. The last time they appeared even in the same part of the sky was over 1,000 years ago in the year AD 949, and they won't manage it again until the 6th of May 2492, it says here.
Oh yeah, no. Well, we're getting messages here. Tony Power, I bid you a good night too, and so does Joe and everyone, and all of us on the Armchair Anarchists. God bless you, my brother. Thank you for joining us. Good chat as ever, and to you too, my brother. Thank you for joining us. And Paul Maximus Pritt has said, this hasn't happened for over 800 years, Joe.
I'm not sure. So, I mean, according to what I just read, it won't happen for another 400 years, but...
Well,
I don't know.
Paul, can you get back to us and let us know, is this true? Because he's saying it hasn't happened for over 800 years. What does it mean, and what are the outcomes from this? But that's just, Paul, get back to us, and we'll get back to him, because we've got to move on.
So the next thing, nuclear batteries.
Nuclear batteries, there you go,
Well, I mean, you brought this news item to my attention today.
I did indeed.
And my first thought was, are you insane? Because nuclear batteries, well, you don't want a nuclear explosion in your pocket, do you? Really?
No, you don't. But I tell you what, you do want in your pocket. You want a phone in your pocket, don't you? You want a phone in your pocket, don't you? We all do. We've all got phones in our pockets. We all want our phone in our pocket. And what's the biggest drawback to a phone in your pocket?
Battery life.
Well, number one,
battery life. But there are far better technological advances happening than having a nuclear battery.
I agree with you, brother. I couldn't agree with you more.
There's batteries being powered by water. I'd much prefer a battery powered by water than a nuclear device in my
hydrogen
pocket.
Power. Well, good point raised, brother, and point taken and well made. So offering up an opposite opinion.
But the article says, and it was published on the 23rd of September this year, an upgrade on the tech that powers spacecraft. So it's aimed at spacecraft.
Powered spacecraft. Powered.
across the cosmos could soon be used to create an incredibly long. Oh, okay. So it could soon be used to create an incredibly long-lasting
Yeah,
battery
exactly.
back on Earth.
The technology was used.
The Voyager probes blasted off in 1977, beginning what would prove to be the longest journey ever taken by objects from Earth. The two spacecraft have now left the solar system, Voyager 2 and Voyager 1. As achievements go, it ranks among humanity's most profound but crucial aspects of that success is seldom celebrated. We may be edging closer to getting this kind of like nuclear battery technology, but I'm very, very skeptical about it.
As am I, brother. As am I. With regards the point with regards to Voyager. Now, Voyager was a spacecraft that was launched in 1977, and it was a probe that was meant to be sent out into the universe to on a path that bypassed all the planets and was meant to go right out of the solar system, which it now has. It's now in interstellar space, which means it's now gone beyond our solar system.
Yep.
What we acknowledge as our 9 planets that surround the sun. It's gone beyond that. And it was powered by these a very small form of nuclear power. It's batteries that send back information constantly. It's powered by nuclear batteries. Now, at the time, in 1977, you have to take into context all of what happened with nuclear power at that point. This is pre-Chernobyl, by the way. Pre-Chernobyl. So this is pre-84. This is 1977. The batteries on it were nuclear powered. They had a very small, which is an incredible engineering feat in itself. They had a very, very small power bank that was powered by a very small element of a nuclear reactor. Let's call it, for argument's sake, its battery. Its battery is still living now in the year 2020. So, Joe, you're good at maths. We're now in 2021. 77, 2021, what's that? Fucking hell. It's over 20 years. It's over 20 years. Anyway, the point being, it's still sending information back and will continue to send information back for the next 20 years. So over 40 years, we will get information from a single, very small, nuclear-powered battery, in inverted commas, if you like. Now, if you place that in modern context, what it means is, in this dawn of climate change and the fact that we realise the fact that our modern source of energy is causing huge damage to the planet, they're looking for other sources of energy.
Yeah.
Now, atomic energy has got a very, very, very bad rap. Understandably so, because of not just Chernobyl, but if you take into account
Fukushima as well,
and also the British one in the Lake District.
Yeah. Doesn't matter about the name.
Anyway, the point is that there's been cataclysmic kind of accidents have happened.
Yeah.
In the growth of the nuclear age.
Well, the thing is that yes, nuclear power is still quite dangerous if things go wrong, even if a small amount of things go wrong. But the interesting thing there is that the progress of nuclear technology was set to be advanced quite dramatically by the Bill Gates Foundation.
It's progressed dramatically, because nuclear fusion, which today, brother. Today, the British government gave the go-ahead for the first nuclear fusion power plant today on British soil. Now, nuclear fusion was, I don't want to bore anybody here, but it was shown to be less... Sellafield, thank you, Melanie. Thank you, my Mel. Sellafield was a British nuclear plant that is positioned in the Lake District, which is the northern part of the United Kingdom. And there was a virtual catastrophe that occurred there in the late 40s when we were rushing for the nuclear bomb. It was brought under control. But anyway, there's been a catalogue of mistakes over the years. But moving on, technology has moved on fucking drastically since those days. And also in the search for newer, more renewable forms of energy that are long-lasting and other than solar and all these other different formats. One that has to be taken into account, even with negative eyes due to its past, its history, is nuclear, because it's a huge amount of energy from a small amount of. Imagine a fistful of nuclear. Let's say that's plutonium. Well, the energy from that fistful of plutonium is huge. It can power countries. It's a huge amount of energy. It has to be taken into account. And anyway, as we move on into within 2020 now, moving on to 2021, more and more people are looking for handheld reserves of energy, like battery format, and reserve energy there.
Just to jump back to fission and fusion a second, the difference is that fission splits a larger atom into two or more smaller ones, and then fusion joins two or more lighter atoms into a larger one.
Exactly. So the energy expended from that reaction isn't as great as fusion, and so fusion is less. You get less energy.
Yeah,
as you did.
But the thing is, so France have a massive future tech energy project to do with fission, I think it is. And I think the UK may be taking part in that. And like you say, the UK have just green-lit a project in this country as well. So kind of moving to a more sustainable, safer form of atomic energy. But then going back to Bill Gates, a few years ago, he basically redesigned a nuclear power plant, because don't forget the nuclear technology used today is still based on technology from decades and decades ago. We haven't really a lot of it is, yeah, and we haven't really upgraded it. Now, what Bill Gates did with his foundation was totally redesign the entire thing, and what stopped him was Trump, because he was going to. He wanted to obviously do it in the US and create this new power plant and test it out, but he couldn't do that, so he went to China, and then he was going to do it in China, but then Trump got in power and he stopped all of that, so he couldn't move forward his project. Now, this new type of nuclear plant, according to Bill Gates, would have zero nuclear waste. It would basically reuse its own, it wouldn't generate any waste, and it would be able to use waste that we already have and we have to bury in the ground for tens of thousands of years. It would be able to use that and get rid of it. So it's self-sustaining, and there's no waste in that. And it's such a shame, again, that Trump got into power and kind of put the brakes on that.
Well, it's also a matter of trust, brother. It's also a matter of trust in it. The trust in atomic energy was lost in the 80s. With the CND campaign and the trust in atomic energy was lost a long time ago. It really, really was, because atomic energy is associated with atomic bombs, and it's associated with atomic energy, and you associate that with Sellafield and with Chernobyl and all these kind of catastrophic kind of events that have occurred. What's the place in Japan? What's the name?
Fukushima.
Yeah, there you go, Fukushima. But the trust in this energy has declined. But in order for us to progress in terms of energy, the trust back in this technology has to grow again. It has to grow again.
I think the trust will come with the new technologies that are coming forward. The trust won't be instilled in the technology which is being used today and the old technology. It will be entrusted into new and safer technologies which are being created.
I wholeheartedly agree. But the trust has to come from scientific data that we can see and is proven to be shown to be safe, and things like that. We gain trust from data, because you and I both work on one we know this, but both of us know this as brothers. We work on facts. We don't work on what someone tells us, or we work on facts. You show us some sort of facts, and then I'm with you all. I'm on board. But if it's just hearsay, or if it's coming from a third party point of view, then there's an element of doubt there. Do you know what I mean? There always is. You and I both don't work on this level. We both work on a level of data. Show us the facts, and we believe you.
I mean, the data and the facts is out there to look at. There's a good documentary on Netflix about Bill Gates, and it highlights and outlines and details his plan for the next generation of nuclear power. So have a look on Netflix and have a look at that if you're interested.
Yeah, and while you're there, folks, make sure you check out 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
Which is what we'll discuss next week. Joel, if you don't mind, as our producer, I really do want to go into this because I think there's substance here that we can talk about, and maybe our some of our people who watch us might find definite too. But anyway, moving on. Can I talk to you about something before we go off here? That's really fucking pissing me off.
What's that?
Is it all right? Can we talk about Philip Green? Sir Philip Green. Do you mind if I talk about Sir Philip Green for a moment?
Yes.
Because news today has shown that Debenhams, one of the greatest high street names in British psyche, that's been with us for over 200. I think it's 270 years, maybe. Maybe I'm wrong on that figure. Anyone can correct me if I'm wrong. Well, it's looking like they're going to go into an administration, right? Which will mean the loss of, I think it's 12,000 jobs.
I will tell you now that Debenhams, the company, was founded in 1778 in London.
How many years am I out, brother? So what is that? I'm rough. I'm on the same page.
Oh no! I think you're right with a couple hundred years. Yeah.
There you go. Boom. This man is responsible for what's known as corporate takeovers. Now, what that means is you acquire on a boardroom level, which means you acquire a certain level of seats to take over a certain group, and that group can have certain brands inside that group because they've gone public. What that means is let's say I've started a company, like I call myself Debenhams, right? And I get to a certain point of revenue, and then what I do is I decide to go public, which means I open myself up to the stock exchange, which means that I can personally earn a lot of money because my share value will be worth fucking millions. But it means the company is now open to shareholder value, and it becomes one pawn on a chessboard of a number of other corporate brands. Debenhams, Topshop, Miss Selfridges, you name it, whatever. Well, Debenhams became that. They became a corporate company. They opened themselves up. It was bought by Sir Philip Green, right? So he now holds the umbrella company that holds Debenhams, Miss Selfridges, Topshop, Topman, all these other companies underneath it, right? He owns this company now. What these people do is, before I go into it, keep in mind that all of these places like Debenhams...
Hold on a second, hold on. Can I just stop you there one sec? Because the Arcadia group of companies...
which is owned by Sir Philip Green.
Sir Philip Green is Burton, Dorothy Perkins, Evans, Miss Selfridge, Topman, Topshop, and Wallace.
Wallace.
It doesn't list Debenhams. I'm just letting you know that.
Well, here's the thing. He owns Arcadia.
Yes.
But he is Sir Philip Green. He owns a number of these umbrella companies that
Right.
own different brands, right? Now let's keep in mind, Philip Green took £1.2 billion out of Arcadia, the group we're talking about. without paying a penny.
Yeah, sorry, that was my mistake. Debenhams under threat from imminent collapse of Philip Green's Arcadia. So yeah, sorry, my mistake.
Dave James Johnson tells us there's no sound.
No sound?
At this point, it's important because this is important.
Should be.
He said there's no sound, just can't hear you at all.
Let me check. Hold on.
But I got a message from Paul earlier saying that Bill Gates has got his fingers in everything.
Yeah.
So, is it Dave?
No, I've still got sound on my phone.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
So I would say just press that mute button and unmute us. He probably muted us at some point.
So, Dave, we're talking about Philip Green, but before we do, let me just point out a couple of points. Sir Philip Green, as we know him, is the man who's responsible for taking £1.2 billion, not just out of his tax loss company that was assigned to his wife. So this man doesn't pay any tax in the United Kingdom at all because he assigned the company to his wife. Now follow me, folks, if you will. Bear with me, if you please will. Because I'm not boring you. I'm telling you facts. This man, he buys up companies he knows that are going to that are doing well and are a good brand. He buys the company. He then does what's called a corporate takeover. He takes over the corporate board seat and then he sells off their assets, robs the pension fund of the company that he now owns, and then leaves them to bankruptcy. That is what has occurred yet again. This man is now overseeing the decline of Debenhams, which is part of his portfolio. And the thing is, it is the interesting bit, folks. Today, not yet, yesterday, there's a £50 million investment was going to come from the guy that owns Sports Direct, the guy that owns Newcastle United. Joel, quickly Google it if you will.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What's his name? He owns Newcastle United, but he also owns Sports Direct.
Let's have a look. And St. James Holdings. What's this? Managing Director Lee Charnley. Mike Ashley. There you go.
Mike Ashley.
Yeah.
Mike Ashley yesterday came up with a £50 million investment into Arcadia.
Loan. It was a loan.
Within 10 days. Why? Why, I ask you? Why?
He offered Philip Green a £50 million loan as a prelude to investment / takeover of Arcadia, but Philip Green rejected that loan.
Why? Here's why, folks. Do you want to know? If I can just make that into simplistic format for you.
Go on.
Please, to make it sense, to make sense to you. Imagine a man that knows if he takes over this thing, he can make this much out of it by robbing the pension fund, by selling off their assets, and just neglecting the rest. What that means is, put it into context of Debenhams, for say. The pension fund for Debenhams is a huge pension fund. I can take that and steal it. Boom, that's gone. Number two, I can now sell your assets off, such as shops, brand stock at that time in warehouses that can sell. I'm going to sell that. Boom, that's gone. Right, that goes into my account, offshore, into my wife's name. This is Philip Green. This is this arm, right? And number three, what's left is a lot of people out of work with no jobs, no pension that they've paid into for years and years and years and years. And this arm walks off to his fucking yacht in Monaco, right? This arm walks off to fucking Universal Credit. This cunt is an absolute twat. And I say this not on behalf of myself. I say this proudly on behalf of the fucking Armchair Anarchists. This man is a twat. He's an absolute cunt. He has 12,000 people are going to go out of work in the next 2 weeks because of this man.
Yeah.
And because of the reasons this arm has just explained. He's going to take the pension fund and put that offshore in his wife's name. He's then going to take the assets, all the shops and all the stock. They're going to go and be sold off at a lower cost. But all the money will go offshore to his wife's name in Monaco. And this man will walk off with the name of Sir Peter Green.
Mm-hmm.
I ask you.
Yeah. I mean,
what the fuck is this about? He's done it before. Please go back and look at the House of Fraser. Please do your due diligence and just look at what this man has done
British
before.
Home Stores as well.
This man steals from the poor and gives to himself, which is the rich. And he's not Robin Hood. He's robbing the hood.
Ah,
That's what he is. He's
well
an
done.
absolute cunt of the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes my piss boil that this man is allowed to get away with this shit of being non-dom status in Monaco. Non-dom means he is non-domicile, which means he can live outside of the UK for a certain period of time, and have companies registered there that all of his fucking money goes to, but he lives in the UK when it suits him best. Listen, this Sir Philip Green needs to be kicked to the curb. It makes my piss boil. But anyway, I move on to the comments that have come up. I hope that I've instilled into you people a state of let us know what you think. I got friends. I used to work at Burton's. Dave Jinx Johnson said, Joan. I've got friends. I used to work with at Burton's. Burton's is another part of this umbrella company we talk about that Philip Green owned. That are not only losing their jobs, but a whopping chunk of pension money that they've paid in, and that guy now owns Sports Direct. Is no, sorry, and forgive me, Dave. I'll read it again. I've got friends I used to work with at Burton's. They're not only losing jobs, but a whopping chunk of their pension fund, because he takes that, he puts that into personal, his wife's bank account, and you can't touch it because it's registered in Monaco, right? Just so you know. And that guy that owns Sports Direct, Mike Ashley, is no better. Of course he's not. Both of those shysters should be doing jail time. Yes, Dave, they should.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking, and I was just going to say, is there anything illegal with what these people are doing, and can they be prosecuted?
Absolutely not, brother, and I can tell you why, because I've read into it. They are following the UK guidelines in terms of tax and in terms of if you own a company, how you they are basically corporate vultures. They take over a company that they see is either slowly in decline or could potentially do better, right? And what they do is they move in, they get board seats, they gain control of the board, then they take over the company, and then what they do is they sell off the assets, they plunge the pension schemes that these companies own, they steal all of the assets and all of the money, and then they leave it into bankruptcy, liquidation. If you follow anything to do with Sir Philip Green or anything to do with Mike Ashley, you will see that every single solitary time these people, it's like the corporate takeovers of the 80s in America. They have followed this path religiously, and they're doing it again. They are taking what they're doing is they are taking a horrific scenario such as COVID and the impact on retail, right? The retail environment, and they're seizing upon it to make money for themselves. They're seeing these shops are going to close. they can't cope. They've got fucking. They're not going to be able to maintain any kind of value.
Yeah.
What have they got? Well, they've got a pension fund that's worth X amount. Cool. That's in the bank. Boom. Put that on. Number 2, what assets do they have? Well, they've got this many shops open across the country that are worth this much. Number 2, that goes in the bank. Number 3, well, what assets do they have? What stock do they actually have at the moment? Number 3, that goes in. Then they decide whether or not it's worth buying that company out, right? Not to help them, not to maintain Debenhams on the main street. No. It's simply to buy the 3 things I've just spoke about. Pension fund, assets, branding. Once they realise that the potential gains outweigh the brand that they've got, then they buy it up, and then what they do is they buy it on the public assumption they're doing it for the right reasons. People are going to keep the jobs, the stores are going to stay open, all of this kind of bullshit. But the reality of the situation is they're buying them because they want to sell them off and bankrupt them as soon as possible so they can plunge their pension fund, they can fucking rob the fucking assets, and then fucking gain all the brand value. That is the bottom line. Time and time and time and time and time again. It's there. It's open for people to see. Please go and do your fucking background. I'm not just talking off the top of my head here. This is factual. That's what they do. That's how they make their money. That's why they drive yachts that are fucking bigger than fucking the estate that you live on.
Yeah.
That's why they gain profit from other people's misfortune. 12,000 people, Joel, are going to go out of fucking. Are going to lose their jobs this month because Debenhams is going to go under, and it's going to go under because the people we just spoke about on this program are going to buy up that company in order to sell it off with no thought of the fucking Christmases the 12,000 people that we're talking about are going to actually have to live through. These fuckers need to be called to account, and it makes my piss boil. Anyway,
it does.
Dave Jinx Johnson has said that people have been to Topshop, Burton's, Dorothy Perkins, etc. Brands. Now, the word brand is the word. When you create a brand, then that. Who knows? Do you know Burton's, Joe?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I used to have a Burton's card.
Do you know Dorothy Perkins?
Yes.
Of course you do. Do you know Selfridges?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know Topshop or Topman? Yes.
Of course.
The brand, their value is in the brand that they have spent years and years and years and years and years and years and years building up. And it gets to this point where they go public, and when they go public, people like Philip Green and fucking Mike Ashley buy that brand. And what do they do with it? Do they go, got this brand, it's brilliant, it's Lee Forsyth Griffiths, it's a brilliant brand, it's fantastic, let's take it to the next level? Or do they go, I've got this brand, what can we earn from this? Well, he's got his back catalogue, he's got his song, let's sell them off straight away, bing. What about his image rights? All right, well, they're worth this. They look at it like that. That's the way they look at things. And 12,000 people this month are going to lose their jobs because of these fuckers. And I hate you from my soul. Every single part of my body, I hate you. And there's no if or buts about it on my. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Anarchists. I'm talking on myself. I hate them. I hate you deeply. Because
especially during this time when it's hard enough to get a job at all, to lose your job at this time during a pandemic is
in a pandemic, brother, and also you've worked for this company for fucking 12 to 15 to 20 years of your life have been given to day in from 8 o'clock to fucking 6 o'clock to this company. 20 years of those 365 days have been given to this company, and this one fat, overweight, fucking wealthy cunt comes along and just says, fuck you, I don't care. The fact that you and your family and your kids and your grandkids are going to be upset this year because you got no job. Deal with it. Fuck off. I'm off to Monaco to sit my fucking rest of the fucking 6 months in the sun tax-free on your behalf. Fuckers.
I know.
Absolute scumbag. Anyway.
Yeah. So we've just gone past an hour and a half. That's it for this week. We've ran out of time.
Sorry, I'm sorry for going off on one there.
No, it's fine. It's they're a bunch of cunts, aren't they?
Absolute bunch of cunts, because that's reality, man. That's absolutely. Imagine if you take COVID into account, right? They say that one person that's got COVID can potentially pass it on to 3, and those 3 people can potentially pass it on to 18, and it moves on, and that's why it spread. Imagine that in the context of someone losing their job in Debenhams this year that has worked for that company for 15 years, right? One person will knock-on effects that. Well, their husband and their children, and then the knock-on effects from that on are more than 18. It's like 24 people potentially are impacted by that person losing their
their
job.
entire family, their immediate family are affected, yeah.
Everything, brother. And that person, most importantly, that person, they've given up fucking 20 years of their lives to work for this company. This fuckwit has now taken over and is now selling off for corporate greed. It makes my fucking blood pressure rise. But anyway, Joe, I love you, man. I love you. Thank you. And thank you, folks, for joining us this week. And thank you for your input. Thank you, Paul. Paul, I said profiteering scumbags. Yes, I couldn't agree with you more, brother. It keeps me awake at night. I actually do stay awake at night. Because of the absolute nature of disgusting actions by people. But anyway. Right.
We will see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week, folks. I love you, Joel. I love you, folks. I love you, Kieran. I love you, Arel. I love you, Chrissy. I love you, Mum. Good night. God bless, folks. I love you.
All right. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Love you.